Hi, Ben. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I really appreciate what you do specifically for the Jewish people as a Kiddush Hashem. It's pretty awesome. I've been delving into slightly the specific food structure currently in the system in the United States. And speaking about kids and life, it's been pretty shocking to see the current system that we have to support nutrition, specifically in public schools, like the fact that it's about $2.60 that's reimbursed per meal, which comes out to about $1.90 for the actual food. The idea that kids are basically helpless, right? We spoke about that earlier, the idea of being able to support them, not even an adult, but the fact that someone who's growing up between the age of 1 year to 3 years old could have pretty heavy impacts of not having proper nutrition. Other component being the fact that spoke a little bit about how government is not potentially as impactful or powerful as social groups and organizations, and seeing as to how I think in the 70s we actually had the most success of decreasing hunger in the United States, but since it started to shift more towards soup kitchens and food banks, it's been a lot less successful. So I'm curious to know what you think about policy in terms of both just the United States as a whole, as well as specifically for helping out kids in the United States who may not be as ability to help themselves.
Well, right. I mean, when it comes to kids, as I say, the government does have more of a role in protecting children because kids can't help themselves. And if they have nobody protecting them, then presumably there are also people who are violating their rights. My feeling about school lunch programs is I don't actually believe in school lunch programs. The reason I don't believe in school lunch programs is because I have children. It is the fundamental basis of being a parent that you must feed your child. I will starve before I see my children starve. Honest to God, I will die before I see my children not eat. And any parent who doesn't feel the same is not fit to be a parent. The notion that the government has to step in, that poverty is so grave in the United States that the government has to step in at the tune of $1 a day and pay for a garbage lunch for a kid. If the kid is really suffering from that level of poverty, you have to consider whether the kid really should be in the home. That sounds harsh, but I don't know how else to put it. I mean, the fact is that if a parent cannot provide basic nutrition to a child, I don't know how that child can stay in that home safely. And believe me, their nutrition problems are not going to end with the school lunch program. I mean, there are 2 other meals a day that they need. And it is not supremely expensive to feed your kid oatmeal. I mean, food in the United States is plentiful and cheap. So I really don't know that government is going to necessarily be the solution in all of this. When it comes to children, I have very little sympathy for adults saying they have no capacity to take care of their own children unless they have something, some real serious disability or something. If you're a fully capable adult and you're not taking care of your child, you have committed the gravest sin that you can commit on this earth. And I don't think that government signing a check for a plate of hash browns every day is going to fit that bill.
So I think a major issue that's brought up is the fact that why is there such a high level of connection between obesity as well as connection to places that are having the highest levels of hunger is because the cheapest food that people are able to afford is the most unhealthy, specifically to do with government subsidies.
Government subsidization of agriculture, that's right, yeah.
Right, so in terms of the fact that now this is the system that we live in, so what would you kind of suggest as the next steps? I mean, saying that every single kid who's living under the poverty line, I mean, the numbers are pretty high. I think even the government recently came up with a statement in 2017, the fact that over 70% of our kids between the age of 17 to 24 are ineligible to serve in the United States military. That's pretty scary.
Oh yeah, obviously obesity is a serious problem. By the way, I will note that is a wide difference from the vast scope of human history, where the problem for poor people is not being too fat, right? The problem for poor people is starvation, and still is for many places in the world. With that said, how do we get better food to people, particularly in food deserts? Right? There are all these areas of the United States where Whole Foods can't survive, or a place a place that sells fresh food can't survive. If we're talking about holistic answers, what you actually need to talk about is solving crime rates, providing more jobs in the community, higher incomes, means ability to buy more things, means more stores opening. But if you're talking about short term, again, charity needs to be the primary solution. And then if that won't solve the problem, then you do have to, here's my hierarchy of helping folks out, right? It has to go something like this. Private charity, followed by local government. Well, it really goes like this. Family, private charity, and private community. Local government, state government, federal government. We've completely reversed that polarity. Now you're not expected to get help from your family or from your church or from your community. You're expected to get it directly from the federal government ASAP, and the federal government, as we've said, is subject to regulatory capture, is subject to lobbying and is subject to other priorities that don't necessarily mesh with the best needs of the kid.